If you like the video, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe for more videos like this. My wife recently figured out my friend's wife was having an affair with me. 5 years ago, right after my divorce, I met this woman at a concert. She was a bit younger than me, but we hit it off and she wound up going to a bar with me and my friends after that show ended. It was a fun night and we exchanged numbers. At that time, I wasn't really using any social media except FB, and that was just to keep up with my kids' school and activities. So, we never friended, just text each other. At first the texts were casual. A little flirty every once in a while, but nothing to suggest there was any interest in anything sexual. Turns out she only lived 20 minutes from me, but we never met up or saw each other. After a couple weeks of texting, we figured out we were both going to be at the same concert again, but this time in another city. It was a guy weekend for me and a girl weekend for her. So, her and her friends met me and my friends before the concert. We did a little bar hopping together. Her and her friends were younger than me and my friends, and I was the only single one amongst my friends. We, my friends and I, noticed none of these girls were wearing wedding rings. So, we assumed they were all not married. They were all younger than us and there didn't seem to be much interest outside of being friends. That was fine, at the time I wasn't interested in a relationship anyway. After going to a couple bars, we went to the concert. Her and her friends had floor tickets and me and my friends had seats. I thought that was the end of it for that night. After the concert, me and my friends went to a bar and then to our hotels. Right after I got to my room, this woman texted me and asked if I wanted to come have some more drinks with her. She was at a place close to my hotel, so sure, I agreed. I went back out expecting to see her and her friends, but it was just her. I don't even think I finished my drink by the time we were heading back to my hotel. It was awesome. When we got back home, she started coming over to my house during the day. I have a flexible job and most days work from my house. She travels around the area for her job, so she had time to come over during the day. She'd come over after my kids went to school and left before they got home. Some days she was at my house almost the whole time my kids were at school. Even if it wasn't my time with the kids, she was there during the same time. Never at night and never during the weekends. It was just a FWB type relationship. That was perfect for me. I was involved with my kids, even coaching 2 of their teams, so it never interfered with my time with them or my friends. Also, I wasn't looking for a relationship and definitely didn't want a relationship with someone that young that may want kids. I'm done having kids. I was upfront with her about how I felt, and she was fine with it. She said she wasn't looking for a relationship either. This went on for almost a year. Eventually I met someone, my now wife, and broke it off with her. She was fine with that too. We never text each other again. A year after I met my wife, we got married. 2 years ago, I met this woman again at a neighborhood gathering. Me and my wife were introduced to her and her husband by a friend of mine. They had recently bought the house right next to his. When we first saw each other, it wasn't awkward or anything. We just smiled and said hi. I told my wife about our past when we got home that night. My wife is very understanding. We both accept that we both have had past relationships. No big deal. Her husband turns out to be a pretty cool guy. He starts hanging out with my group of guys' friends and we become friends too. This year he joined one of my fantasy football leagues. So, he friends me on FB. After I friend him, he friends my wife. My wife takes a look at his profile and asks how long ago I was FWB with his wife. It was 5 years ago. She shows me a recent post that says he and his wife have been married 8 years. Should I, 24F, wait until my boyfriend, 24M, matures? We've been dating for 1 year and generally it's been great. However, I am starting to reconsider the relationship because he seems immature and I don't know if he will change anytime soon. 1. He went 5 months without having a job when we were supposed to be saving for an out-of-state vacation. I ended up having to loan him hundreds of dollars, and he brought a couple $100 for a week of food and transportation, which evaporated in 2 days because he spent nearly half of it on weed. 2. He just started school this semester, but panicked earlier because his dad said he might not be able to pay the tuition. My boyfriend said he would just postpone school, and when I suggested he work full-time to pitch in for tuition, which is $1,300, he said he didn't want to and got mad when I asked him if he was serious about going back to school. 3. He frequently overdrafts his account and doesn't have any savings. Some of my friends tell me that men tend to mature more slowly, but TBH, I meet a lot of men around my age that already have careers, are saving money to buy a house, etc. I mean, I live with my parents, so I don't expect my partner to be completely financially stable, especially in this economy, but at least stop being so frivolous. I kind of don't wait for him to mature, especially when he's basically living like an 18-year-old with no intent to change, and I am starting to consider the long-term future. When I bring this up with him, he says I need to wait for him to mature and that it's too early in the relationship to think about serious things like marriage, even though he always talks about wanting to get married. My boyfriend left me at a bar and hasn't responded to my texts in 3 days. Saturday night, I, 23F, was out with my boyfriend, 27M, and another couple that are his friends. My boyfriend and I have just gotten back together a month ago after being separated for 3 or so months. During that time he dated someone else. Anywho, we drank, played pool and had a good time, and as soon as we walk out we get into an argument that causes him to leave, taking an Uber back to my house, where he proceeded to ring the doorbell, waking up my mom because I was still in the parking lot of the bar crying that he could just up and leave me after a stupid argument. I can't remember how it started, but I just asked him if we could talk there instead of fighting while I drove us back to my place. When I got home, my mom told me he said she wouldn't take me home, and she responded to him, "You just left her there." He got all of his stuff and left that night and hasn't spoken to me since. I'm just hurt that he could leave me 40 minutes away at a bar I didn't know because I didn't want to argue while driving. I texted him 3 times since and haven't heard a word. Any advice on what I should do? Whenever we fight or argue, he doesn't listen to how he makes me feel, but I know I can be emotional, so I'm just struggling because I care for him so much. My F30 husband, M29, doesn't care about appearances, things to a fault. We have been married 5 years. He will wear wrinkly clothes that have holes, stains, shoes until they basically wear through, clothes that don't fit, etc. Physically, he bites his nails constantly, has poor posture, and drinks beer all the time, so he has a beer belly. As it pertains to things like our house, he acts like I am super vain for trying to keep things like the yard up. I don't need upgrades or renovations, just concern over upkeep of our largest purchase. Maybe I shouldn't care, but he knew when we met that I think caring about yourself and being a good steward of your possessions is responsible and mature. I also think it has impacted his career, but he won't admit it. And more than one friend has straight up called him a slob. It's embarrassing. For those who may ask, when we met he was at a preppy college and generally dressed well, aside from being wrinkly or stained. I figured it was a college thing, but the older he has gotten the less he cares. He comes from a very well-off family and we are fine financially, so it's not like he can't afford to take care of himself or buy new shoes or own an iron or doesn't know what a nice yard looks like. Even if we didn't, most of those things don't take money. His mom is a lot like him and has a "I don't care about my look" attitude to a fault. I truly love that he's not into looks or things. But there is a big difference between that and taking care of yourself and the things you have worked for like an adult. Any advice on how to approach this with him? Do I just have to take over all the responsibility for him and make sure he is dressed, keep up with home maintenance, etc. Roommate's BF is over all the time. Okay, so for some background, I'm 19F, a sophomore at college, and I moved into a new apartment about 2 months ago. I live with 2 other roommates, 21F and 23F, who for the most part get along with pretty well. They are both attending the same college I go to on a sports scholarship and play on the same team, so as a result they are closer with one another. However, that has not stopped us from living with each other peacefully and from getting along. But, I have been running into some issues with my older roommate. Her BF, 26M, is over at the apartment. A lot. To give you the rundown of my story, my roommate was holding her boyfriend's things over the summer since he's from out of state and he didn't have to pay for a storage unit. Completely understandable, they're very expensive. When I moved in, she told me he would come over to pick up his things. Cool. I had the impression that she meant he would pick up his things too and take them back to his apartment, but that is not what has been happening. Since he's come over, he's basically just been living here. For the first week he was here I said nothing because my roommate and her BF hadn't seen each other all summer, so I figured that they were just catching up, no biggie. But then another week goes by, and then another, yet he's still here. I brought it up to my roommate on the 3rd week of his staying here, and she told me that in a week he would be going to live with his grandparents who live about 2 hours away, and now after 3 months, you guessed it, he's still here. What has been bothering me the most is that there are times in which my roommates will be gone for 3 to 4 days because they are traveling with their team, and during that time he'll continue to stay at our place. The first time they went out to compete I was fully expecting to have the apartment to myself, and so I was quite shocked to see my roommate's boyfriend chilling on the couch when I got home from class that day. What motivated me to write this post was that today my roommates are gone for a competition again, and after 3 weeks of not him being away because of a tennis competition, guess who comes knocking on my apartment door? I'm sure you guys can tell this has been bothering me. Just to note, all of us have our own bathrooms and bedrooms. The only thing we share is the kitchen and living room space. Fortunately, he is fairly clean and doesn't eat my groceries, but my roommate and him often dominate the kitchen and living area when they are together and it makes me uncomfortable to be around them. On top of that, I feel like her BF sometimes acts pissed at me as if I'm intruding in on their space, but technically it's not his space, right? I don't believe he has his own apartment considering he's here all the time, but I haven't asked. From what I've gathered from the bits of info my roommate has told me, he graduated last semester and he's in the process of trying to get his tennis career to take off, and so it seems like he's planning to just stay here until that happens. I guess what I'm asking is if I have a right to be uncomfortable with him being over, and how would I go about talking to my roommate about this? On top of all of this, his grandmother, the one I think he was planning to stay with, passed away recently, so I want to be delicate ab his situation but still be able to express my boundaries. My 22M GF broke up with me 5 months after cheating. I am wondering if that's the real reason. Hey, so title says it all. My girlfriend broke up with me 5 months after emotionally cheating on her. Back in May 2022 my girlfriend snooped through my phone and seen me texting an old girl that I used to be friends with benefits with where she would send me old videos of us having sex. So in that 5-month span sometimes my girl will get emotional with me when she's drunk and tell me that she has not been feeling the same since she has seen that and that it hurt her because she did not think I was capable of that. We've been together at this point for 1 year and 4 months at this current date. This past month at least once every weekend she would express her feelings to me when she's drinking and will break up with me due to that incident she caught me doing back in May. I know this sounds very selfish but here I am very confused as she has broken up with me this past weekend because everything tells me that it's something else that she is not telling. These past 4 weekends in a row where she has broken up with me but then we will get back together immediately in a few hours except for last weekend because I can tell it was really over, she has been more emotional. She's usually not. I guess the reason I am asking this is because normally I would expect someone to dump you immediately after we're caught, not 5 months after. Sorry, I typed this using the voice feature because I was too lazy to type this, lol, excuse me for the bad grammar. So the question I have for you guys is, do you think there is an ulterior motive behind her ending our relationship, or do you think this is a case of built resentment she has for me? I tried everything I can to gain her trust back too, by the way. Friend is friends with his exes and I want to accept it. Hey everyone, I'll try to keep this short. I would also really love a male perspective especially. So my BF 35 meters and I 28F have been dating for almost 6 years. We live together, love each other deeply, and I have no reason to think he's ever been unfaithful to me, ever. I truly trust him, which is why I'm not sure why this ex thing bothers me so much. It has for years. He is friends with 2 exes mostly. They were serious, dated for a long time, met each other's families, went on vacations, etc. One has lived in another continent for years, but they're part of the same friend group, so I've had to hang out and befriend her to an extent. She is lovely, by the way, really sweet, but I just hate being confronted with his past, like hearing their shared experiences and stories. I hate it. The other was hoping they'd work out and was really hurt when we started dating seriously, so I'm even less thrilled with that friendship. She's since moved on and is in her own relationship, but it definitely wasn't a great start. What is even more annoying is that even though these relationships ended so long ago, they maintained a sexual relationship for a long while after, and he even cheated on other ex-GFs with both of them. I hate that I know this. Anywho, I know he isn't cheating and I do trust him, but this whole thing just makes me sad. I hate that it affects me. I hate that I get sensitive and the topic always comes up in a movie or social media and I realize I'm clearly not over it. He takes the position that they are more than just exes, they are family, and so I have to accept that or move on. I love him and I don't want to do that, but I hate feeling like this and it just feels like it pushes me away. He did stop talking to the one that didn't want us to work out. While he didn't offer much understanding, he definitely wanted to be done with the whole argument, and I know he feels I'm insecure and I just trying to control him, which I don't want. This whole thing came up because we recently spent a weekend with his friends, including his ex, and they're already planning another one, so it seems I either need to get over this or move on. The last thing I want to do is prevent him from seeing his friends, and I don't want to make it awkward for them when I know they're just trying to have fun and enjoy. Me and my girlfriend broke up so she can focus on her self-healing journey and sports. Me 18M and my GF 18F finally broke up after 6 months because she said she wanted to focus on herself, like healing from her trauma, and focus on tennis. She is a senior in HS and I'm a freshman in college. There is this dude that I have had a problem with her talking to in our relationship because I felt uncomfortable that he was in close friends on IG and texting each other, knowing that she used to talk to him to distract herself from me before we started dating. 4 months into the relationship he texted her, which she told me about how they had a conversation that was helpful to her. I let it go eventually because I was upset, so I asked her to block him, which she did. I have already unfollowed everyone that was involved within the past. I'm upset because I told her she can unblock him if they were just friends, and she told me that she is not going to unblock him because she already did it. Once we break up, they start follow each other again the next day. She texted me and told me she loves me still and asked how I was doing after the breakup. She got into explaining why she felt the need to break up and said that she can't see herself with anybody else and hugging, kissing and being affectionate, and told me to give her time to work on herself. I'm so confused RNTBH and I am hurting a lot. I want to call her and talk to her about how I feel about them still talking, but it's not my business because we are not together, but I'm still confused if she wants me or not because I wouldn't do this to her. I 22F am in a love triangle with my close friend 21M and his ex 21M. My friend and I met in college virtually. It was an instant connection. We went to the same school, but because of the pandemic we were both in different areas. We hung out most of the time, video, audio call, gaming, etc. There was never a moment we weren't together. I'm unlabeled but have only dated women in the past, and the thought of dating men just wasn't actually there. He is bisexual, leaning more towards men, and when I first met him, around a year and a half ago, he was in a toxic LDR with a guy, but then my friend ended the relationship. They said they would remain friends but never talked. As friends we talked about our interests, hobbies, family, sex life, relationships, etc., and during one of our talks, he told me that he had never been on a real date before. He mostly used Grindr for hookups, and I promised him that I would take him on one. When we met physically we already knew everything we needed to know about each other, and that very first day I took him on a date as friends, but still a date. He said he never felt so loved and cared for. I was happy to make my friend feel loved. After a while of hanging out physically, he confessed he liked me, and turns out I liked him too. These feelings only developed when we were together physically. Prior to that we were just friends. He was still hurting over his last relationship and said he didn't want to make it seem like I was a rebound. I agreed with him, and after a while of hanging out together, we started making out, but we would always stop before things got heated. He finally confessed he loved me, and I told him I loved him too. He said he was insecure about starting a relationship because I lean towards women and he isn't one. I told him that my focus is 100% on him and that I did not care that he wasn't a woman. I just loved him for who he was. But I also confessed I had the same insecurity. We've been basically living together for the past month after hanging out almost every day at each other's place, because we got tired of having to drive back home late at night and thought it was the safest option. A week ago, we went to an event together and his ex, the toxic one, was there. My friend was completely ignored, and I guess he felt sad because he proceeded to text him about it and then block him. I was with him the entire time this happened. In the past he had asked me if I would go back to my ex, and I explained that even if we got along so well, I cannot forget the things that were done to me, because when you miss a person sometimes you forget how awful they treated you. He agreed. 3 days passed and we were waiting for our lecture, when he gets a call from a random number. It was his ex. He went out of his way, 3-hour drive, to say he was sorry for ignoring him and that it was because he was nervous and didn't know how to react. I gave them space to talk it out, and once they did they unblocked each other. I now see them texting each other with nicknames like baby, love, etc. And decided I talk to him about it. He said it's hard to make a choice because he loves us both. I told him that I don't want any drama, and that being in a love triangle is not something I'm looking for. I understand now that I'm most likely on the losing end of the triangle. I need advice because even when I know we both fell in love, I think I fell a little harder, and I don't want to lose him, but it hurts to see him with someone else who doesn't treat him well and will most likely return to being toxic. 21F, think my ex-boyfriend, 22M, is having sex with another girl right now. I don't know if I'm being crazy right now, but I was with my ex for 3 years. I live a province away, and we still share our locations with each other. We're still very in love with each other, but he has a habit of lying and hasn't been able to stop, so we ended things temporarily. We're still in contact every day. He said that he wanted to know if I would be moving on, going on dates if I was ever ready, and he wasn't, and he said he was working on himself and not talking to any girls on any dating apps or anything. He said he was fixing himself so we could be together and he could be good for me in the future. He said that he would tell me if he ever wanted to start seeing other people. It's 9:43, on Thanksgiving. He didn't have work today. He hasn't responded to my texts since 8, and is in the place he works at, a car shop. He has keys and there are no cameras, and this is a place which he's asked me if I wanted to have sex with him. We both live with our parents, to car sex at night was the only option. It's almost 10 p.m. and he didn't have work today. I can't help but feel like he's hooking up with another girl right now. there's absolutely nothing else he would need to do at this hour at his workplace that was closed today. I called him. He hung up after a ring. I asked him what he was doing and he hasn't responded. To my knowledge he was waiting until it was the right time for us and he wasn't talking to any girls and wouldn't do anything with any girls. I genuinely don't know if he's with another girl right now, but he's acting so strange. I'm just at home, panicking. I think he's lying. I feel insane.